Muni to inspire Vyasadeva. So the Vyasadeva was more into dharmarthas, the four artha, dharmartha and kama moksha. So which was not giving satisfaction, because he was only giving solution to a problem in terms of, okay, this problem is solved by this problem is solved by this. There was no presence of Krishna, or presence of Krishna was not highlighted as the, like someone in the center stage. So that was done. Now, that was the highlight that Narada Muni gave. After Narada Muni gave that highlight, then we got into a situation where Vyasadeva is asking about Narada Muni's inspiration, his life. So then we read the entire life history of Narada Muni, how he became a great devotee, how he attained a spiritual body, and all those things resulted in realization of Vyasadeva, where he started to compile Srimad Bhagavatam. So now we've heard all of these. So now the only part of the question that is unanswered is the question about the hearer. What is the reason that Parikshit Maharaj, became took this glorious position of reciting Srimad or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam when Sukadeva Goswami recited this? So Sukadeva Goswami will not recite Srimad Bhagavatam to some ordinary person. He must be an exalted person. So what is the glory of this personality called Parikshit Maharaj? So that is where now we are going to answer this question. So hence we have recited and arrived at this chapter 7 called the son of Drona punished. So son of Drona refers to whom? It refers to Ashwatthama. Now Dronacharya is the guru, right? The guru of the Kauravas, and his son is Ashwatthama. Now, if he is the guru, guru's wife, guru's children should also be honored, just like how someone honors guru. If that is the case, then how come the guru's son is being punished? So what is it, that set of events that happened that resulted in punishing guru's son? So that is the whole point of contention, right? And that's what we're going to read now. So now there are two questions that we're going to understand the mood while reading today. Just a second. So now what happened when Vyasadeva was asking Narada Muni? Okay, after the sages, okay, who came to perform an yajna there, and you did service to them, they initiated you. Okay, so after the sages left, what did you do? How is that you achieved a spiritual body? The same question Vyasadeva asked to Narada. The same question the Shaunak rishis are asking now to Sudha Goswami. Okay, so now after, Sukadeva Goswami spoke everything, what did happen to Parikshit? So they are asking a similar question like that. So now we're going to read from that now. Okay. So are you all clear? Any so far?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good. So we'll read from 7.1. Shaunaka uvacha nirgate narade suta bhagavan bhadarayanaha shrutavamstat abhipretam tatah kim akarod vibhuhu. Translation. Shaunaka asked, O Suta, the great and transcendental powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Narada Muni. So after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? Okay, so this is setting the scene. Okay, now 7.2. Suta Vacha. Brahmanadhyam Saraswatyam Ashrama Pashchime Tate Samyaprasha iti prokta Rishinim Satravardhanaha. Now look at this key sloka here. He's talking about Ashrama Paschame Tate. Okay. So now it is only talking about on the banks of Saraswati. It's talking about a geographical location where he was sitting and then where he was writing and all those details in the Badrika Ashrama and all those details. But the keyword is Ashrama. So how is that he's using the keyword Ashrama? Let's understand that translation. Shritu Vasa. Sutta said, on the western bank of river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage of meditation at Samyaprasha, which enlivens the transcendental activities of the sages. So that is the key here. Now look at the key here now. Let me highlight this. So the author is using the word ashrama. There is an ashrama of Vyasdeva at Samyaprasha. Srila Vyasdeva is a householder, yet his residential place is called ashrama. So in the Varnashrama system, we have 4 ashramas. What are the 4 ashramas? Brahmacharya ashrama, Grihastha ashrama, Vanaprastha ashrama, Sannyasi ashrama. So that means, what is this ashrama? Irrespective of the kind of activity that you are performing, whether you are performing a brahmacharya ashrama or a grihastha or vanaprastha, the word ashrama means something, that a place which will give us spiritual enlightenment. An ashrama does not mean, oh, we have to go to the forest or we have to go to a place of hermit where no one is there, I'll be alone. That is not the criteria. The criteria is a place where spiritual practices can be done perfectly, or that can enhance one's spiritual practice to the higher and higher levels. That is called an ashrama. And hence, here the sage is using, the author is writing the word ashrama. So look at this word. An ashrama is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. So that means when we say devotees are practicing Grihastha ashrama, it does not mean, okay, I'm just husband and wife, I have children, I will do whatever I want. No. You may be husband and wife, but your entire house is to be completely spiritualized. All the members in the house should practice spiritual life, and that is when that becomes an ashrama. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or mendicant. It does not mean whether you're sannyasi, whether you're a grihastha. It does not mean so. So that is not the criteria. The criteria is spiritual as the foremost importance in one's life. Okay. Now what Prabhupada writes? Look at what Prabhupada writes. The whole Varnashrama system is so designed that each and every status of life is called an ashrama. This means that spiritual culture is common factor for all. The brahmachari, the grihastha, the vanaprastha, and sannyasi all belong to the same mission of life, namely realization of Supreme. So it talks about if that spiritual practice makes one to realize God, realize the Supreme Absolute Truth, then that is called a spiritual life, and such a practice is called an ashrama. Okay? Is this clear now? Okay. Let's go to 7.3. Tasmin sa ashrame vyaso badari sandamandite ashino apa upasprisha pranida dhyayo manak swayam. Translation. In that place, Srila Vyasdeva, in his own ashrama, which was surrounded by berry trees, sat down to meditate after touching water for purification. So it is just he wants to purify his externals and internals, and then he wants to start to meditate. Now, the question is, who is he going to meditate and for what purpose? Okay, let's read the next sloka. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatat apashrayam. Look at the keyword here. The keyword is Bhakti yogena manasi. Manasi means in the mind, in the heart. So in the heart, when he sat down to meditate, he was meditating with Bhakti yoga. He did not just meditate on an object like a mountain or a tree or anything like. No, he was meditate on something with devotion. That is the key here. So now, whom do you give the devotion on is the next part of understanding. Okay. Now look at the word samyak. Samyak means perfectly, engaged in and fixed upon. So that is a key word here. So what does that mean? He did not just sit and meditate in a very careless manner or an inattentive manner. No, his meditation was perfect. His meditation was clearly focused on that Supreme Personality of Godhead. And his meditation did not have any mixture. It says, Apashyat Purusham Purnam. So this word apashyat, this amale word means that does not contain any material thoughts into it. What is material thoughts? One has activities that does not contain the Supreme Lord. Is material. So thus meditation is zero material, but it's fully transcendental. And what was it meditating on? Purusham Purnam. So who's called Purna Purusha? Krishna. Krishna is called Purna Purusha. So which sloka do we read in who knows the sloka Ishopanishad? The invocation sloka. Om Purnam Adah Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udyachate. Then
Purnasya
Purnasya Purnamedavadaya.
Purnamevavashishyate.
Correct. So what does it tell? It tells Krishna is complete in all aspects. Krishna is complete in all aspects. How? All his energies and every aspect of these elements of this creation, all the Devatas, everyone is included in him. That means by just meditating on Krishna, our one's meditation becomes Purnam, complete. There is nothing bereft. There's no more things that needs to be searched for. It becomes the ultimate. That's why he says, Purusham Purnam. Then he says, Mayam Tachat Apashrayam. So that means what happened? When he started to meditate without any tinge of materialism, what did he saw? He saw the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he saw the manifestation of Supreme Personality of Godhead on one side, behind the Lord, he also saw his external energy. What is that external energy? Maya. So the three gunas, the Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamasaguna, right? He saw that also. Now, Vyasdeva was wondering, why is that I am seeing the Maya Shakti? Okay. Secondly, we also can understand that Maya is subordinate to the Lord, is under the control of the Lord. That's why she is appearing behind Krishna. Right? The third thing we also understand is Maya is also an energy of the Lord, which is the external potency of the Lord. So you see, Vyasdeva was seeing Maya Shakti when he envisioned the Supreme Lord Krishna through his Bhakti Yogena Manasi, that means through Bhakti, meditative process which was filled with complete spiritual transcendence with loving devotion service. Right? So which sloka we understand when we see Maya in Bhagavad Gita? Daivihesha Guna Maya. He says, Mamam Maya Duratyaya. Mam eva ye prapadyante. Mayam tarantite. Right? So this is what you have to understand. So, for example, how Krishna is understood. Krishna is understood Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabde. That means ultimate realization is Bhagavan, but a partial realization is understanding Brahman, partial realization is understanding Paramatma, but understanding Krishna is full in the Bhagavan form. Right? So we see that all these Brahman, Hiranyamayena Patrena, right, means the Brahman effulgence that comes out of the body of Krishna is only partial understanding. So that is the conclusion out of this sloka. Okay. Now let's go to the next sloka, 7.5. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam tri gunatmakam paropi manyute nartham tatkritam chabipadyate. Okay. So now Radharani Mataji, this sloka everyone have to mug up. 7.4. Actually, next three slokas people have to mug up. 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. Right? So this sloka will tell us how do we do our meditation. For example, we are doing chanting every day. We are doing devotion every day. How do we do that? Bhakti yogena manasi. It's not just meditating on a surface level. It should be done in devotion, proper devotion. That means focused. Secondly, with this sloka also helps us to preach when we are talking to others where Maya is an potency of the Lord and it is subordinate to the Lord. All those things can conclude out of this. And also the characteristics of Maya. Then we can also conclude How to understand Bhagavan? Just understanding Maya won't help. Understanding Bhagavan is the highest realization. Right? So all these things, this sloka will help us to quote when we are preaching. Okay. So let's go to the next sloka, 7.5. यया सम्मोहितो जीव आत्मानं त्रिगुणात्मकं परोऽपि मनुते अर्थं तत्कृतं चाभिपद्यते. Look at this sloka. It says, due to his external energy, the living entity, he also saws the jiva, although transcendental to the material nature. So that means this line is telling us that the jiva is in a higher position compared to the external energy. So how many energy Lord has? Lord has internal potency, Yoga Maya. Then he has his external energy, Mahamaya. Then he has his marginal potency. That is the living entity. The marginal potency can live or can come under the shelter of Yogamaya or can come under the shelter of Mahamaya or the external energy by his own will. That is the key here. That means if I have the will to choose Yogamaya or to choose Mahamaya, that means I'm in a higher position compared to them. So this is the key word to understand here. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of nature, transcendental means he is above, thinks of himself as the material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. So what is the problem? This is not problem of the mind. See, mind is just executing instructions so that the activities and the functions of the various senses can go on. That's all, nothing to do. But here the problem is the false ego. What is false ego? Ego is the one that gives us identity. Who am I? Am I Nitya Krishna Dasa or am I falsely identification? I am so and so. I am this body. I am highly educated. I'm a doctor. I'm an engineer. I'm a lawyer. What do we identify with? So this false identification is the problem. So when the false ego, that means the identification, understands it in relationship with Maya, that is the external energy, then what happens? He becomes subordinate to the external energy, thinking that he is a product of external energy. But if the ego, the Hankar understands that, no, 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 my position is not I'm a product of Maya, but I am a product of Krishna, where I am part and parcel of Krishna. Mamaivaamsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana.
Sanatana.
If he understands that he is part of Krishna, then he understands what? Jivere Swarupaya Nitya Krishna Dasa. I am eternal servant of Krishna. So then what happens? He will transcend these three modes of material nature. Yeah. So now who's the one who's choosing this? The Jiva. Now, because he chooses himself to be product of Maya, false identification, that's why it's called ego, is called false ego. What does he do? Whatever the reactions of the three modes of material nature happen, he dances accordingly. He goes through all material tribulations, sufferings, material happiness, material difficulties, everything because of his identification. The moment he comes out of this identification, then he is, into higher state of realization, right? In the 7th chapter, what the sloka we read? Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kammono buddhi. That means, you see, this sloka tells that the product of Maya. Now, the next sloka tells, apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param. Jiva bhuta mahabaho ya edam jaya. So Krishna is saying that Jiva is actually in a higher state, but he is falsely identifying himself, and hence he is suffering. Right? So this is how Vyasdev is able to understand the position of this living entity. Now, what happens to the position of living entity? Because of the illusionary energy, the living entity struggles. Struggles, and it performs activities, which is called karma. And because of that activities, he suffers the reactions. Those activities and reaction causes the living entity to acquire newer and newer bodies every time as a cycle. And how long this is going on? Time immemorial. If creation is, let's say, 1 million years old, 1 million years he is going on through the cycle of acquiring newer and newer bodies. Okay, you may say, okay, what's wrong with acquiring body? There's nothing wrong with acquiring the body, but the problem is this body, rather than understanding its true identity, understands its false identity. And this place, because it identified in a false manner, it continues to suffer in this place rather than happiness. What is the position of the soul? Satchit Ananda. That means eternally the living entity is supposed to be in a happy state, right? Serving the Lord, being with the Lord, sheltered under the Lord. But what is going to go through him? It is going to Krodha, Moha, Bhaya. All those things he's going through because of distancing himself from the Lord. So, this is the cause of this illusionary energy. The day when the jiva realizes, okay, I don't belong, I'm not a product of this material energy, but I'm actually a servant of Krishna, then his life dimension changes. So, Mahamaya spreads the carpet of illusion on all the conditioned souls. It does not affect the realized souls. So, we living entities are making all this effort to migrate from the conditioned state to realized state. And how do you do that? So our Acharya Srila Prabhupada has given a beautiful formula, right? Practice Navavida Bhakti. Practice Bhakti in this manner. Be cooperative to the Vaishnavas. Be cooperative to everyone. Serve each other. And like this, slowly when you start doing it, then what happens? There are two steps that are going to happen, which we'll see in the subsequent slokas. Okay? So this is the understanding. There are details that are given. You can spend time after the class and read through the purport. So you can relate what I am trying to say and what the purport is saying. Okay. Let's go to 7.6. Anartopashamam shakshat bhakti yogam adokshaje lokasya janato vidvams chakre satvata sammitam. Okay. So now look at this. It talks about Chakre Satvata Samhitam. Chakrate Samhita Samhitam is a Vedic literature that will enlighten someone on the Supreme Personal Godhead. And which is the Vedic literature? Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Now let's go to this first line. Anartho Pashamam Shakshad. Right? So, what is Artha? Artha means understanding, meaning, or knowledge in the correct manner. Anartha means improper understanding of something, false understanding. Okay. Anartha Pashama means whatever wrong understandings that I made, what is the prayashchita? What is the solution to come out of it? Right? So, Anartha Pashama means finding a method where I can come out of my anarthas. And what is that? Bhakti Yogam Adokshaje. So Adoksha refers to Krishna. So now Ajay means eyes. Okay. So Adokshaja means one who is not perceived by this material eyes, or one is beyond the perception of our senses. It's called Adokshaja. So Bhakti Yoga, by performing Bhakti Yoga on that personality who cannot be conceived or perceived by this material senses, who's that? Supreme Personal Godhead Krishna. One will directly solve the problem of anartha. Anartho pashamam shakshat bhakti yogam adokshaje. So that's a direct. So now he is giving direct solution. He is giving this solution that performance of bhakti yoga is the one that will lead us to remove all anarthas. Okay. So this is the solution for whom? Lokasya janato. Means for all the living entities in this entire world. This is a solution. So hence, Vyasadeva is writing Satvata Samhitam. Samhita means Vedic literature or writings that will enhance one's spiritual life, which will be focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So it says, you see this, the material miseries of the living entities which are superfluous to him can be directly mitigated with the linking process of devotional service. So in the previous sloka, we talked about the living entities suffering because of the three modes of material nature due to false ego, wrong identification. Now, the next sloka Vyasa is telling, yes, you are suffering. The best way to come out of this illusion is remove that anartha. Directly perform bhakti yoga on that Supreme Lord. So, but the masses of people do not know this. Lokasya janato vidvams, they don't know this literature, they don't know this knowledge. Hence, the need to compile Satvata Samhitam, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So, this is what we understand out of sloka number 7.6. Okay, now let's go to 7.7. Yashyambai Shriyamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhakti Utpadyate Pumsa Soka Moha Bhayapaha. See now, everywhere we have this question, how Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Now see, in this first canto, 7th chapter, 7th sloka, we are talking about Krishna Parama Purushe. Right? So when one is challenging you, you can quote this sloka. So this sloka also needs to be mugged up. So Mataji, for mugging a point, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, and 7.
7 also, no?
Yeah, including 7, right? Here you will conclude that Krishna Paramapurushe, right? Now look at this. Look at the key word is saying, Shruyamanayam. Now here it is talking about oral reception. Now, by hearing the oral reception of Krishna, who's Paramapurushe, Bhaktir Udpadyate Pumsaha. The feeling of devotion service, right, will manifest in heart. So that means one should make it a point to take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam at all points in time. See, in the previous sloka, he ended by saying the need to compile Srimad Bhagavatam, the literature. He talked about Samhita. Now he's talking about how that Samhita will make one understand that Krishna is the Paramapurusha. Right? So you see how the slokas are getting linked. Right? So now let's look at, and what is the net results of Bhakti Utpati Pumsaha? Shoka Moha Bhayapaha. What is Shoka? What is Shoka?
Sorrow.
No, Shoka is sorrow. Okay. Oh, I don't have this. I don't have this. I am not this. I don't get this. This, that. Always dissatisfied. So that living entity is continuously in aggression, is always lamenting. That is Shoka. Moha is lust. Right? So lamentation. Then lust. Because of lust, you see people become greedy. Be it sex, be it material possession, or be it power, or be it anything else as material activity, they want more and more, more and more. So soka, moha, bhayapaha, even that fear. When does fear come? When one goes away, distances himself from that Supreme Lord Krishna, the fear increases. Fear of failure, fear of insecurity, fear of death, every aspect of fear increases. But one who gets closer to Krishna, the fear goes away. So devotees, you see, they're fearless. How many sloka we have read about fear? Which sloka you can quote for fear?
Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat.
Okay. Then, what else slokas?
That sloka was there, Bhagavan Ishwara Hari.
Bhagavan Ishwara Hari. Recite the full sloka.
Bhagavan Ishwara
Tashmat Bharata Sharvatma.
Sir, Bhagavan Ishwara Hari.
Shrotavya Kirtitavya.
Smartavyascha
Chatabayam.
Yes.
Just by remembering that, Bhaya just goes away. Okay? Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tam sarva papyabhyo mokshashyami masichaha. He says masichaha, don't fear. Right? So like that you see, shoka moka bhaya, everything goes away by just taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and performing bhakti yoga practices. Right? Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling of loving devotion service to Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, sprouts up in one's heart, but at once extinguishes the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. See, that is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, let's read this highlight. Can someone read this highlight?
Prabhu.
The ultimate result of devotional service is to develop genuine love for Supreme Personality. Love is a word which is often used in relation with the man and woman, and love is the only word that can be properly used to indicate the relation between Lord Krishna and the living entities. The living entities are mentioned as a Prakriti in Bhagavad Gita, and in Sanskrit, Prakriti is a feminine object. The Lord is always described as the Paramapurusha or the supreme male personality. Thus, the affection between the Lord and the living entities is something like that between the male and female. Therefore, the term love of Godhead is quite appropriate.
So, what is this part of the purport is revealing to us is we are all feminine. What is the nature of feminine? Feminine nature is to serve the Purusha. Purusha means one who's the enjoyer. So that is our natural position. Now here feminine does not mean women. Feminine refers to all living entities whose position is to serve the Supreme Lord. That's what feminine here means. Right? So Krishna is the Parama and we are all Prakriti. Prakriti is feminine. So our duty is to serve the Lord. Right? Now when we serve the Lord, what will manifest? When they serve the Lord, serving here refers to devotional serving with love. When that serving with love is being done between the living entity and the Paramapurusha, then there is a sambandha, there is a relationship, the relationship of love, the relationship of affection, the relationship of care, all those things manifest. In fact, it is there originally, but it is covered by anarthas. So now the anarthas are being removed. Once the anarthas are being removed, then you will see the real position of the jiva is enlivened or enlightened. Okay, now let's read the green one. Can someone read the green highlight?
I'll read, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Devotional service to the Lord begins with hearing about the Lord. There is no difference between the Lord and the subject matter heard about him. The Lord is absolute in all respects, and thus there is no difference between him and the subject matter heard about him. Therefore, hearing about him means immediate contact with him by the process of vibration of the transcendental sound. And the transcendental sound is so effective that it acts at once by removing all material affections mentioned above. As mentioned before.
That's all, enough. Okay. So now you see what is it that's been talking about. So by one taking Srimad Bhagavatam, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the katha, the mentioned there, the details that are mentioned there, what does one develop? One develop the loving relationship with the Lord. Now, how is it possible? The scriptures are telling us the sound vibration or the katha or the chanting of the holy name, there's no difference between them and the Supreme Personality of God. That means when one takes shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, one is taking direct shelter of the Lord. That is the perfect understanding of this. Okay. So now let's go to next sloka, 7.8. Sa samhitam bhagavatim. Oh, what is that? It's not moving. Okay. Kritavanu chatmajam sukam adhyapayam asha nirvitti nirantam munihi. Translation. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, revising it, what did he do? He taught to his son, Sri Sukadeva Goswami, who's already engaged in self-realization. Okay, so now you may ask a question here. Prabhuji, if Sukadeva Goswami is on a higher platform, very high platform of self-realization, then what is the need for Vyasadeva, after compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, he taught his own son? Why should he need to taught? He already knows. He knows every aspect of Bhagavatam. What is that he's going to realize more than this? So, the point to understand what Prabhupada writes here is, he writes very brilliantly. He says, let's take an example. Let's say you invite someone for lunch at home. Okay. He is very, hungry, and then so what does he do? He eats all the things that are presented there in a buffet system or whatever it may be. He enjoys it nourishingly and is fully satisfied. There's no more space for him to eat anything further. Now, if you offer him anything ordinary, he'll say, no, I'm not understanding, I'm full, I can't eat any further. But if you give one special item, even a person who's fully satiated in his eating now, he may still eat that because of its relishing taste. Right? So similarly, the knowledge or the Vedic literature compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam is so nourishing that even a fully satisfied person, a fully realized person like Sukadeva Goswami, still want to nourish it further. So, if you reverse it and see, that means the nourishment that is given by Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited, that one can go on hearing and practicing forever in their life. Right? So, this is the power of Srimad Bhagavatam. And hence, Vyasadeva is calling his son and say, come, I will teach you Srimad Bhagavatam, which is compiled, where Supreme Lord Krishna and his associates are the center of the entire discussion. So that is how we understand this meaning. Okay? Any questions, doubts so far? Okay. So let's go to the next sloka, 7.9. Saunaka vacha savai nirvitti nirattaha sarvatropekshako munihi kashyavapritim etam atma rama samabhyasat. So, in this sloka 7.9, the rishis are assembled at the Naimisharanya. They are asking Sutta Goswami. Srila Sukadeva Goswami is already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? So we discussed about that, but we will also read once again from Prabhupada's purport. Okay. Can someone read this highlight purport?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, for the people, from there I have to start, Prabhu.
Correct.
For the people in general, the highest perfection of life is to cease from material activities and be fixed on the path of self-realization. Those who take pleasure in sense enjoyment or those who are fixed in material bodily welfare work are called karmis. Out of thousands and millions of such karmis, one may become an Atma Rama by self-realization. Atma means self, and Arama means to take pleasure. Everyone is searching after the highest pleasure, but the standard of pleasure of one may be different from the standard of another. Therefore, the standard of pleasure enjoyed by the karmis is different from that of the Atma Ramas. The Atma Ramas are completely indifferent to material enjoyment in every respect. Srila Sukadeva Goswami had already attained that stage, and still he was attracted to undergo the trouble of studying the great Bhagavatam literature. This means that Srimad Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atma Ramas. who have surpassed all the studies of Vedic knowledge. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari, look at the beautiful explanation. So, even the fully satisfied, someone says he is fully realized, he is fully satisfied, still Srimad Bhagavatam will nourish him. Because the extent at which the nourishment can happen is the extent at which one is realized. What is Atmarama? Atmarama means one who is fully satisfied and who is in completely nourished the pleasure of serving or performing devotion service to the Lord. Such is an Atmarama. For him, even though he is fully nourished, he still feels there is more nourishment. So that's why you see there is no end in devotion service. There is no end in devotion service, and it keeps on growing. If you hear the conversation between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu goes on by explaining that there is no end in devotion, the pleasure one received in performing devotional service to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. It is unlimited, it keeps on growing. Even though Radharani is the epitome of servitude of Godhead, still her pleasure in serving Krishna keeps on increasing and she keeps on deriving nourishment out of that. Right? So that is what we understand. Hence, Sukadeva Goswami continues to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva. Okay. Now, the next verse is going to talk about what is Atmaram. So let's try to understand something about Atmaram. 7.10 Sutavacha Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgranta api urukrame kurvanti ahaitu kim bhaktim ittam bhuta guno harihi. So now let's look at, this is a verse which is talking about who's Atma Rama and how does he, take pleasure in understanding it.
This is
Now,
by Kanna Prabhu.
you can buy at this from a concept of understanding what is Atma. Okay. Now, Atma Rama, if you take Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are many things. 61 different explanations are given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on just Atma Rama, right? There is a verse in Madhya Leela. You will see that in the later chapters after 24 or 25, that chapter. It's a very big chapter, and the whole chapter is dedicated just to understand Atma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks so much about Atma, right? So now here we are not going to talk about all those things now. We'll just talk about one of them and then try to understand this sloka from this concept of Atmarama. Why we are understanding Atmarama? In relation to how Sukadeva Goswami was self-satisfied in Atmarama. He's an Avadhut, and still, his thirst for Srimad Bhagavatam was quite intense. That's what we're going to understand. Okay, translation. So the Goswami said, all different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma or the spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service to Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities, therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. The attraction to the Lord is not just from the conditioned souls, but including liberated souls. That way he took the examples of gopis, the Gopakumaras, the Vrajavasis. Even though they're completely liberated, they're Nitya Siddhas, they descend from the spiritual world, still they get attracted to the Lord's pastime. So when Krishna performs an act of pleasing, like an activity in Vamshivat, it is the highest amount of pleasure that he can give. It still pleases the people. When Krishna kills Bakasura, still it pleases the people. When Krishna runs out of fear in the Amodar Leela, still it pleases the people. That means any act of the Lord, it just continuously pleases the people like anything. This is very important to understand. And the liberated souls who might have realized all these things still get attracted to the Leelas of the Lord. Right? So you see, this Shravanam and Kirtanam Vishnu is so attractive that I'm just going to read one verse from the 4th canto where Durva is explaining, Naham tishtami vaikunte Yohinam hridayeshu va tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhaktaha. My dear Narada, actually I do not reside in my abode, Vaikunta, nor I reside within the hearts of the devotees, but I reside in the place where my pure devotees chant my holy name and discuss my form, pastimes, and qualities. Right? So the key to understand is whether he's a liberated soul or whether he's a non-liberated soul, if there is discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of the Lord, pastimes of this, that is where the Lord resides. It is not that Lord will reside in his palace, Lord will reside in some other place. No. All those things are not attracted to the Lord. Lord resides in a place where the glories and the katha of all this is being discussed. That is among the devotees, he resides there. So it is recommended for devotees to always get together, not alone, to get together and discuss Bhagavad Katha. Whenever the devotees get together and discuss Bhagavad Katha, that is where the Lord resides. And that is why it is important to practice study classes, to practice, reading or associating with devotees and discuss Krishna Katha. These are the key things to understand. Okay. Now let's look at the first part. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this Atmarama sloka is very vividly before his chief devotee, Srila Sanatana Goswami. Okay. He points out the 11 factors in the sloka, namely Atmarama. So, second, Munaya, Nirghanta. So, Atmarama is what? One who take pleasure, completely self-satisfied when they connect with the super soul, the spirit. Right? What is Munaya? Munaya refers to sages. It is even the sages who are completely realists. They take pleasure in doing that. Nirghanta means refers to none of the material tinge, none of the material thoughts or anything like that. Right? Urukrama is, it refers to people who are into different kinds of activities, right? And ahaitukam, unalloyed. Bhakti means devotion service. So you can understand that an Atmarama who's completely realized, who's always on meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is never into the mode of satiation. There is no question of saturation on devotion service. The more he performs, the greater the taste and the greater he realizes. So, the person of Atmarama, he keeps on drinking the nectar of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Keep on drinking hearing the katha of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So, how does this work? For example, there is a devotee who always in connection with the Lord by chanting his holy name and hearing his katha. When he does this activity, the Lord nourishes him. And Lord nourishes him and then makes him completely self-satisfied and feel blissful internally. When other devotees see this devotee, they also get attracted to this devotee. Why? Because Krishna is the factor. So that means a devotee who's practicing Bhakti Yoga, who's practicing hearing and listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, will automatically attract other devotees. And other devotees who are not in this mood of Srimad Bhagavatam Krishna, who are envious, who are having other negative mental qualities, you see they get away. And in this path, pure devotional services manifest among the devotees. So, that's why it says the word nirghanta conveys these ideas. One who is liberated from nescience, one who has no connection with scriptural injunction, and who is freed from obligation, rules, and regulation mentioned in the scriptures like ethics. Right? So, this is the position of Atmarama. Now, we can keep on going and talking about Atmarama, but from the current context, I am just trying to explain you what is the position of Sukadeva Goswami, why he is an Atmarama, and how he is still getting attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so this is a very long purport. You can take time to read this, and it clearly talks about Atmarama and the qualities of Atmarama. So 7.10, purport should be read in a slow manner, and you should be mindful while reading so that there is no distraction. and you're able to hear and understand the meaning of it. If you still have doubt after reading the 7.10 sloka, you can send a message to me and I will see how can I help you with more details. Okay.
Prabhu, in the beginning, Prabhu, that is Atma Rama means taking pleasure in the self.
Yes.
It is given like that, Prabhu. That means we should understand that we should always be understanding, reading in association of devotees in learning, understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. That's all, Prabhu.
Yeah, but when you do that, you
Yes.
will be completely nourished, and that nourishment will be so wonderful that you will be fully satisfied. The material anxieties, the material lamentations, the material lust will go away.
Yes.
When all these things go away, you're completely satisfied in your heart. You're completely contented because you're already and always connected with that Supreme Lord.
That is called pleasure, final pleasure, Prabhu.
That is the final pleasure that he receives.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Now let's read 7.11. See, in the previous 7.10, let's take that sloka. In the 7.10, he says, Kurvanti ahaitukim bhaktim. So then he is now ending with the aspect of the devotion service. And then now look at the next sloka. He says, Harer gunakshipta matir Bhagavan Badarayana Adhyagan Mahat Akhyanam Nityam Vishnu Janapriyaha. Okay. So now let's look at what is Janapriyaha. Janapriya means devotees of the Lord who perform loving devotion service. Okay. Now see the connection now. Translation. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, was not only transcendentally powerful, he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus he underwent the study of this great narration, Srimad Bhagavatam. So now what has happened? It is not that an Atma Rama person is going to be fully satisfied. It is not that he is completely nourished internally by hearing the activities of the Lord. But he also sees the relationship of other living entities in connection with the Lord. When he sees that, he also becomes very, very dear and near to other devotees. So, you see, a completely realized soul will never commit an offense against another devotee. Because his tendency is to see the loving nature in other devotees and not to find fault with another devotee. So hence what has happened to Sukadeva Goswami? He became very dear to all devotees because now Krishna is the center factor. Because of Krishna's pastimes and practice of devotion, one not only becomes fully satisfied, but they also become very dear to others. Right? So this is one of the greatest benefit of practicing devotion service and taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? Is this connection clear between 7.10 and 7.11?
Prabhu, can you
Yes,
repeat
Prabhu.
the answer?
This is not clear.
Explain once more, it will get embedded in the head.
So we are just looking at the three levels now. Okay, what are the three levels? One is the devotees who are just practicing, who are not realized. That is level one. Okay, or you can even consider devotees who are neophytes. Okay, sophomores, entry-level devotees. All these kinds of devotees. This will also include devotees who are practicing for a longer period of time. Okay, and that is level one. Then level two is devotees who are always taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, completely nourished in their hearts, and they're fully self-satisfied. This is level two. That is one set of devotees. The third level is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what does the Lord say? Which is the sloka, that sloka we referred? We said, Lord says, I reside in the place where my katha, my pastimes are being discussed. It is not that I reside in my palace and keep quiet. No. Wherever there is loving devotion practice performed, I recite there. That's what Lord says. Okay. So that is level 3. So let me repeat. Level 1 is devotees who are practicing at entry level. You're trying to grow, who are trying to practice more. That is one set of. Second, realized devotees like Atma Rama who are completely nourished and come in always in great pleasure in serving and hearing about Bhagavatham. Then the Supreme Lord. Okay. Now what it says is very simple. The level 2, that means devotees who are like Atmarama, self-realized, fully contented, they're always in connection with the Lord. They're always sheltered under the Lord. So the Lord gives personal attention and personal care to those devotees. Now, because they are always sheltered under the Lord, Krishna is all attractive. The devotees are also all attractive. So hence the level 1 devotees, they not only get attracted to Krishna, but they also get attracted to other devotees who are completely satisfied, the level 2 devotees. So you see, there's a whole relationship between Krishna, the realized souls, and even other practicing devotees. They love each other. And the common factor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Got it.
Does this help, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
So this is the key. So that's
Hare
why.
Krishna, Prabhu. But level 3, you said no, Prabhu.
Hmm.
Who is that level 3?
Level 3 are devotees who are practicing and they're trying to grow up in the devotion service. They're yet to reach that higher levels and things like that. I'm just telling masses of people.
Okay, I understood, Prabhu. Level 3 is that here, thus he underwent the study of this great narration. That means, although we are completely Atmaramas, we want to give this to others because they are also very happy. They are to the devotees of the Lord. Is that
Don't go to the factor of giving to others. The point is, if one goes to the practice of proper devotion service, he's so much nourished that he need not do anything to attract others. See, in the material world, you have to do many things to attract people, right? You may probably have to call parties, give them expensive gifts, and you have to give, some high-level speeches. So many things you have to do to attract people. But these great realized souls, they don't do anything. They just perform their devotion service with such dedication that automatically all other people get attracted to them. That's the point here.
a little more clarity required, Prabhu, here. So, although Shukadeva Goswami is Atma Rama and he is transcendentally powerful, so he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus, he underwent to study this great narration. Oh, what is that clarity I require, Prabhu? Why he?
Okay, so now the first part tells that he is a fully realized soul.
Yeah.
He is already in the state of Atmarama. Because he's state of Atmarama, he did not do anything specific to become dear to devotees. Because of his devotion practices and because of the factor that Krishna nourished him, automatically he became very dear to other devotees.
Okay.
And the other devotees are also having a loving relationship to Sukadeva. They're having got a lot of respect for him. They love him. They deal with him in a very nice manner. That means the relationship between devotees and Sukadeva Goswami enhanced so much, not because someone put the effort, because of Krishna. Is that clear?
Okay, yeah.
So thus he underwent the great narration means this is the fact. It is Srimad Bhagavatam that is making me to become more and more self-satisfied, and then I'm going to take the narration again and again. He is wanting to taste that more and more. Now you're able to connect, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what the sloka 7:11 means. Okay. So now the position about these basic detailing about what is Vyasadeva thinking when he saw when he meditated, when he saw the Lord and he saw the energy, when he saw the living entities, he decided that it is the practice of Bhakti Yoga that they can come out of their difficulties, and hence he wrote this great literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. And the position of the speaker is also being clearly explained here. Okay, now the sages at Snaimisharanya, they asked, okay, so now you please tell us the glories of Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, you please tell us his birth, his activities, and the deliverance of Parikshit Maharaj. So you please tell us on that. So in that connection, to answer that question, from Sloka 12 onwards, we will start, which will talk about the life of Parikshit Maharaj. So what we'll do in today's class, we'll just finish 7-12 alone and we'll pause here. Okay. Parikshito atar rajasher janma karma vilapanam samstam chapandu putranam vakshe Krishna katodayam. Translation. Suta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Shaunaka. Now I shall begin the narration of Lord Sri Krishna and topics of birth, activities, and deliverance of Parikshit Maharaj. The sage almost kings as well as the topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. So now you see, we have completed first canto, 6 chapters. In the 7th chapter, we completed up to 11th sloka. So till then, Lord Krishna was being talked through scripture, narrations here and there, all these things talked about. But this is the first sloka where Lord, the hero of the entire book, Srimad Bhagavatam, is appearing. Right? So, if you look at it, how he is coming, the Lord is showing as a menial servant of his devotee. That's how he is being introduced in the scene. Now, what is the scene? So let's go back, right? Let's go back to understand Srimad, the Mahabharata in a very glimpse in this context. So now what happened in Mahabharata? The war was won by Pandavas. And what did Bhima did? Bhima hit the thighs of Duryodhana and cracked his thigh and thigh bones. Now, if you clearly understand from a medical point of view, if a thigh bone and a thigh is cracked, that person will die in a matter of time, right? There is some relationship to the bone marrow and things like that, and then automatically it's a matter of time he will leave his body. So that was what was done, and you see, Duryodhana is in deathbed. At that time, Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthama, what does he do? He comes, sees the suffering of Duryodhana, his king. He wanted to take revenge. What did he do? He went straight away to the camp where the sons of Draupadi were sleeping and went to the camp and released arrows, and then he killed all the children of Draupadi, right? Now, seeing that, Draupadi was in great anxiety. She was lamenting and she was crying for what, mistake that my sons have done, that this heinous act has been performed. Looking at this, what did Arjuna do? Arjuna immediately takes a vow. You will see in this next slokas. Arjuna takes a vow that, oh Draupadi, I can see this. For this reason, what I will do, I'll go chase this Ashwatthama and I will cut his head, behead his head, and bring that head and drop it at your lotus feet. I mean, this is how Kshatriya speaks, because Kshatriya speaks in his mood of aggression and things like that. So Arjuna speaks in the same manner, right? He says, I'll behead the head of Ashwatthama and get it and make it fall at your lotus feet. So after this, Arjuna is now looking at Krishna, and that is when this introduction of the sloka comes, where Krishna is already ready with his chariot to drive Arjuna in search of Ashwatthama. When they started to go and drive in search of Ashwatthama, Ashwatthama knew, the invincible Krishna and Arjuna, Narayana, they are coming, and there's nothing that can stop them. They are always victorious when they are together. So he does not know what to do. Out of fear, out of instability, what he did, he just started to release the Brahmastra. So when he started to release the Brahmastra, it started to create big havoc, right? And that is the next part of the sequence that we will understand. What happened when he released the Brahmastra, and what did Krishna do, and what are the sequence of events that go into the detail. So that we will read from the 13th sloka onwards up to the 25th sloka, then we will see how Ashwatthama was handled in the entire scenario. From there, you would conclude the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. That means Parikshit Maharaj's birth was not ordinary like you and me, where you just born to mother, gone to hospital and things like that. No. Even the birth itself, Krishna gave his personal shelter and performed his first Leela, right, to Parikshit. Right? So that way you'll understand, if Parikshit is not an ordinary person, why will Lord perform such an act? That means Parikshit is a great personality. And that's what we will conclude out of this. Okay? Okay, so I will end today's class, and we'll continue from this class on to the next part of it.
Today is amazing, Prabhu. The day started so excellently. Thank you.
Krishna Katha is always like that. It's unlimited and so beautiful. And we can go into such wonderful detailing. Okay? So I wish you all the best. And any questions we can take 2 questions maximum in interest of time. And we'll try to give you the best answer.
Prabhu, we take the example of Shukadeva Goswami as Atma Rama, Prabhu.
Correct.
Now in Chaitanya, in Gaur Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always wanted to hear more and more katha from Ramanand, right, to nourish himself and the people around there. So we call, though we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord himself, still can we take the example of Atma Rama?
Yeah, correct. See, Atma Rama not only refers to the Lord, it also refers to the devotees of the Lord. Okay. So it is an appropriate conclusion. So there's no doubt about it.
Okay.
So now the bigger realization that you need to have is, even that Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he himself was nourishing more and more, and he was asking questions about devotional practices from Ramananda. Correct? Now, then why not Sukadeva Goswami, and why not others?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can we relate this verse number 10 and 11 to Srila Prabhupada's journey also, Prabhu?
Not just Prabhupada's journey. So now let's look at Prabhupada's life, right? Now, Prabhupada was introduced by his friend. His friend's name is what? Narendra? Friend is Narendra, no? Who introduced him to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur?
I don't remember.
Narendra something, yeah. Okay. So, Narendra was going to his classes, and then he saw Prabhupada and said, okay, you should come with me. I'll introduce you to a guru. Okay. So Prabhupada went and he saw Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati for the first time. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, when he saw Prabhupada for the first time, he immediately knew who he was and what is he going to do, because he is in that level of confidence. Now, what happened to Prabhupada? Just that one visual and personal association of Prabhupada with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur immediately changed his life to completeness. Right from that day, the devotion in Prabhupada's heart manifested like anything. And it was unstoppable. How many times did Prabhupada sat with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? If you read his entire Leelamrita, you'll say that he probably had personal association maybe about 5 times or 6 times, that's all. That's it. It is not that he brought him to Gurukul, personally trained him for years together, nothing. And in that very short, amount of association, whatever instruction Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave, Prabhupada took it to his heart. When Prabhupada took it to his heart, it is not that he straight away ran to execute them. No, first he wanted to internal purification of himself. So hence, he went to Vrindavan, stayed in the Radha Damodar temple, every day worshipping and pleading to the Acharyas, the Goswamis, and Prabhupada attained the empowerment. So you see, it is not possible for ordinary people to do this. He was such a realized soul that he realized this, and he tasted Krishna Rasa by his performance of sadhana. That means Prabhupada realized the instruction, the value, he took the empowerment, he performed his own sadhana. After doing all of them, when he has relished the holy name, then he went out to the world to give it to them. So this is what is important. So Prabhupada did demonstrate all these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Prabhu. See, even Shukadeva Goswami is giving this Srimad Bhagavatam to all the rishis, assembled rishis, including Parikshit Maharaj. So I felt that once Srila Prabhupada is self-realized, so that he became Atmarama. So he wanted to give this knowledge to others.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. Let's end today's class here. Have a wonderful day. Remember Krishna and always be in loving devotion service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Okay. Grandharaja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari
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 Bol.
Ya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti
Guru
Vaishnava
Vaishnav
ki
Vrinda
jai.
Jai.
Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Om Tat Sat.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Dandavat
Prabhuji.
Pranam.
Dandavat
Thank you
Pranam
so
to
much.
all the devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
For the wonderful class.
Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna,
Pranam
Dandavat
Prabhu.
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna,
Dandavata
Prabhu.
Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavata Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Pranam. Okay. So we'll end